emotion. This is not a person sitting comfortably with what happened. This is not someone who moved on cleanly, slept peacefully, and left the story behind without looking back. This feels like a heart-carrying ache, regret, unfinished words, and a love that never really agreed to leave. Spirit is saying it so clearly at the very beginning. They are not okay. They want to apologize. They want to explain. And yes, they are still in love with you. The first card rising here is the Five of Cups. And wow, that tells me remorse is all over this situation. I feel like this person keeps revisiting what happened, what they said, what they failed to say, what they should have done differently, and how everything could have shifted if they had just handled one moment with more honesty or more softness. This is not vague sadness, it feels personal. Specific, the kind of regret that settles in the chest and does not let someone rest properly because the heart knows some damage did not have to happen the way it did. And right beside that, I'm seeing the Knight of Cups, beautiful and painful, because this says the apology living in them is sincere, tender, emotional, full of things they wish they had expressed sooner. I keep hearing something very clearly. I never meant for it to become this painful. That line lands right in the center. Because what I'm getting is that this person may have thought they could manage the situation, delay the truth, avoid the vulnerability, keep their feelings contained, or let time smooth everything over. But instead, the silence deepened things, the distance complicated things. And now they are sitting with the emotional truth that the heart does not feel safer after all that. It feels sorrier. The energy around you feels like the Queen of Cups. And I love that so much because it tells me part of what they miss is your emotional warmth, your softness, your way of understanding beyond the surface. I feel like this person knows deep down that you gave them something tender and real, and they are now painfully aware of how much that meant. Sometimes people only realize the depth of a gentle heart once they no longer feel it around them the same way. That is exactly what this feels like. Then I'm seeing judgment, and wow, this tells me a wake-up call has happened in them. Something has become impossible to deny. Their own feelings, their mistakes, the consequences of leaving things unclear. This person may be reaching a point where they can no longer live under the version of the story that protected their pride. Spirit keeps showing me a heart that has been called into honesty, maybe reluctantly at first, but fully now. They know they owe you truth. They know they owe you clarity. They know they owe you something more than silence or confusion. Another message keeps rising strongly. I need them to know what really happened in my heart. That one matters, because this is not only about saying sorry in a polite way. This is about clarifying, explaining, untangling what got distorted. Letting you know what was fear, what was confusion, what was love, and what was never indifference. Then the lovers appears, and that is such a strong confirmation that the feeling is still alive. This person may have tried to reduce what this connection meant, call it timing, call it intensity, call it unfinished emotion. But Spirit is saying the deeper truth is love. Real love, not perfect love, not fully expressed love, but living love, the kind that still aches, the kind that still turns back toward your name in quiet moments. The kind that still imagines another chance to say things differently. And then the Hermit in reverse steps in, which tells me they cannot stay hidden in this forever. The silence is becoming too heavy. The private guilt is becoming too loud. The need to come forward is building. So the message opening this reading is this. They are not okay because the heart knows there is unfinished pain here. They want to apologize because the regret is real. They want to clarify because too much was left unclear, and they are still in love with you, which is exactly why none of this has become easier for them to carry. And Spirit keeps whispering one last thing here. Do not mistake their quiet for peace. Some hearts go silent, not because they stopped caring, but because the feeling became too deep to speak carelessly. That is where they are now, and the truth inside them is getting harder to hold back. Soon, the heart grieving in silence will choose truth over pride, and when it does, the apology will carry far more love than they ever meant to show you. Now, like a letter folded and unfolded so many times that the edges start wearing thin, this next current feels like someone carrying an apology in their heart long before they know how to place it in your hands. Because what I'm getting now is that this person is not only sad, they are emotionally unsettled. The kind of unsettled that shows up in quiet moments, in late hours, in ordinary routines that suddenly feel heavier. Because your absence or the distance between you is sitting right there inside them. They are not okay because the story feels unfinished, and because the part of them that still loves you keeps asking for a chance to say the truth more beautifully than they did before. The first card stepping forward is the Nine of Swords. And wow, this tells me their mind has not let them rest. There is replaying here, rehearsing here, sleeplessness here. A heart trying to understand how something so meaningful was allowed to become so painful. I feel like this person goes back over details, tone, timing words, silences, the look on your face. The exact point where things felt like they slipped out of harmony. This is not a person who forgot. This is a person who cannot stop revisiting. I keep hearing something very clearly. I wish I could take back the way I handled it. That line says so much because it tells me the apology wanting to come forward is not shallow. It is not sorry if you felt hurt. It is not some polite little sentence designed to smooth things over. This feels like real accountability trying to be born. The energy around you feels like the high priestess, and I love that because it tells me part of what is pressing on them is the fact that your intuition likely saw more than they admitted. You may have sensed the contradiction, the hidden feeling, the fear under the behavior, the love underneath the confusion. And I think this person knows that on some level, they know you probably felt the truth before they were brave enough to say it. That realization adds to their need to clarify. Because when someone can feel your soul reading what you refuse to speak, silence starts to feel dishonest. Then I'm seeing the Page of Cups, and that brings such tenderness into the reading because yes, there is sorrow, yes, there is regret, but there is also a very soft desire to reach you with gentleness. I feel like this person does not want to crash back into your space carelessly. They want to come with a softer tone, a more open heart, a more vulnerable honesty. There is a sweetness inside the apology. Almost a trembling, like they know the conversation matters so much that they want to carry it carefully. Another message keeps rising strongly. I need them to know it was never because I didn't love them. That one lands deeply, because this is one of the major clarifications they want to bring. Not everything they did matched the love they felt. Not everything they showed reflected the truth in their heart. Fear may have spoken louder. Pride may have spoken louder. Confusion may have spoken louder. But the love was still there. Then the Six of Swords in reverse appears. And wow, that tells me they have not emotionally moved on from this. They may have tried to create space. They may have tried to stay composed. They may have acted like time would eventually smooth out the ache. But inwardly, they are still turned toward the connection. Still turned toward the unresolved feeling. Still turned toward you. That is why the apology has so much weight. It is not coming from someone who is done. It is coming from someone who still cares deeply enough for the truth to matter. And then the Ace of Swords steps in, which confirms everything. Clarity wants out, explanation wants out, the truth wants daylight. So the message in this next movement is this. They are not okay because their heart knows too much was left tangled. They want to apologize because the regret is genuine. They want to clarify because they do not want you carrying the wrong story about what happened or what they felt. And underneath all of it, the love is still alive, which is exactly why this weighs so heavily on them. And Spirit keeps whispering one last thing here. This person is not trying to reopen the wound for no reason. They are trying to clean it, name it, own it. And finally tell the truth with the tenderness it deserved the first time. That is why the apology is getting closer now. Because love that is still alive eventually gets tired of hiding behind misunderstanding. It starts reaching for repair. And this heart, however delayed, is reaching. Even now, when they try to act normal, there is a pull in them toward your name, your softness. They want a chance to say, I was wrong, and the truth is, I still love you, not to manipulate, not to confuse, but because the heart can only carry unsaid love and real regret so long before it finally asks to be heard. What I'm getting now is that this person is no longer only living with regret. They are living with tenderness that has nowhere to go. That is what makes the ache so strong. It is not just guilt, it is love, still trying to move while everything around it has stayed unresolved. The first card stepping forward is the King of Cups. And wow, this tells me the feeling has depth, real depth. This person may have looked controlled, restrained, hard to read, or emotionally composed from the outside, but Spirit is making it very clear that under the surface there is so much heart, so much emotion, so much unfinished love. I feel like part of why they are not okay is because what they feel never actually left. They may have tried to contain it, manage it, downplay it, but it stayed. I keep hearing something very clearly. I still care more than I know how to show. That line lands right in the center because it tells me their behavior and their love have not matched, and that mismatch is haunting them now. The energy around you feels like the Empress, and I love that so much because it tells me this person knows your heart is not something small. They know you brought softness, value, warmth, maybe even emotional safety into their world in a way they did not honor well enough when they had the chance. I feel like they're seeing your worth more sharply now, not in some abstract romantic way, but in that painful personal way that happens when somebody realizes too late how deeply another person enriched their inner life. Then I'm seeing the Hanged Man, and wow, this says their perspective has completely shifted. They are seeing what happened from another angle now. They are understanding your side more, understanding the emotional impact more, understanding themselves more. Sometimes the apology only gets real after a person is forced to sit still long enough for their own defenses to fall away. That is exactly what this feels like. Their old narrative is not working anymore. The heart has taken over the interpretation. Another message keeps rising strongly. I understand now why you felt what you felt. That one matters so much. Because clarification is not only about them being heard, it is also about them finally seeing. Finally understanding how their silence, distance, confusion, or choices may have landed on your heart. Then the Two of Cups appears, and that is such a beautiful and heartbreaking confirmation because it says the bond is still very much alive in them. There is still emotional recognition here, still a pull, still a sense that what existed between you was real and meaningful. I do not feel this person wants to apologize only because they feel guilty. I feel they want to apologize because the connection still matters deeply. They still care what lives in your heart when you think of them. They still care what story remains between you. And then the Three of Wands steps in, which tells me they are looking ahead now. Not only backward, the apology they want to give is not just about cleaning the past. It is also about whether there is any way to create a different future, a future where the truth is no longer buried. A future where what they feel can actually be spoken clearly. A future where maybe love does not have to remain trapped under regret. So the message in this next movement is this: they are not okay because the love stayed, the regret deepened, and the emotional truth has become impossible to dismiss. They want to apologize because they finally understand more than they did before. They want to clarify because they do not want the connection to be remembered only through pain or confusion. And yes, they are still in love with you, which is exactly why everything hurts as much as it does. And Spirit keeps whispering one last thing here. This person is not only grieving the way things happened, they are grieving the version of themselves who could have loved you better if they had been braver sooner. That realization is humbling them now, softening them now, changing them now. And once that kind of change begins, the heart usually starts reaching for truth, for apology, for the chance to say, I see it now, I see you now, and I wish I had done this differently. That wish is alive in them, very alive. And it is getting closer to language because even now, in the part of them, your name opens the same place, the soft place. The honest place, the place that knows love was here, is here, and never really left. That is why the apology is not fading, it is ripening. And when it finally reaches you, it will carry tears they never showed and truth they no longer hide. There is something about this next current that feels like a heart standing outside your door in the rain, not knowing whether to knock, not knowing whether it deserves to knock, but knowing it cannot keep walking past forever. That is the energy here, because what I'm getting now is not only regret, not only longing, not only memory, it is humility. The first card stepping forward is justice. And wow, this tells me this person is finally face to face with the truth of what they did, how they handled things, and what that created between you. I feel like before they may have leaned on excuses, timing, confusion, emotional fear, pride. Maybe even the hope that things would somehow smooth themselves out without requiring them to say the hard thing. But now, that old comfort is gone. Spirit is showing me someone who knows they owe honesty, owe clarity, owe accountability. I keep hearing something very clearly. You deserved better than what I gave you. That line lands deeply because it tells me the apology wants to come from a real place, not a polished place, not a strategic place. A truthful place, the energy around you feels like the star, and I love that because it tells me the reason they want to explain everything is not only to ease their own guilt, it is because some part of them still sees you as light, as healing, as the person whose understanding matters most. They want you to know the truth because your perception of them still matters. Your heart still matters. The story that remains in you when you think of them still matters. That is love. That is not indifference. Then I'm seeing the Seven of Swords in reverse. And wow, that is such a strong sign that hiding is getting harder for them. No more ducking the truth, no more emotional smoke, no more pretending they can keep the deeper reasons sealed away. I feel like this person is becoming painfully aware that if they do not speak honestly soon, the silence itself becomes another wound. Another form of dishonesty, another way of failing the bond. Another message keeps rising strongly. I don't want you blaming yourself for what was really my fear. That one matters so much. Because I think part of what they want to clarify is this. What happened was not because you were too much, too emotional, too loving, too open, too real. It was because they were scared. Scared of depth, scared of being seen, scared of how much you were starting to matter. Then the Six of Pentacles appears, and this is beautiful because it tells me their heart wants to restore balance. They know the emotional exchange became uneven. They know you may have carried confusion while they carried hidden feeling. They know you may have been left with questions while they protected themselves behind silence or mixed energy. And now there is a real desire in them to give back truth where uncertainty was given, and softness where strain was created, and then the Lovers rises again, which tells me the deeper reason they are struggling so much is simple. The love did not leave. It stayed. It lived under the regret. It lived under the distance. It lived under the apology they still have not fully delivered yet. So the message in this next movement is this. They are not okay because the heart has finally become honest about what they owe you. They want to apologize because they know they mishandled something real. They want to clarify because they do not want you carrying pain that belonged to their fear. And yes, they are still in love with you, which is why silence has become so emotionally unbearable now. And Spirit keeps whispering one last thing here. This person is not only trying to find the right words, they are trying to become the version of themselves who can say those words without hiding behind anything anymore. That is why the energy feels so tender, so heavy, so close, because the apology is no longer a thought, it is a need. And when apology and love live in the same heart long enough, the truth starts walking toward the mouth on its own. Even now, I feel them standing in that inner doorway wanting to say, I was wrong, I loved you, I still love you, and I need you to know what was real. That is how near it feels tonight for real now. I also keep sensing this. They are afraid you will hear the crack in their voice and know immediately that they never recovered the way they pretended to. Because underneath every explanation, underneath every attempt to clear things up, there is still a heart reaching, still a heart hoping, still a heart asking whether truth, once spoken cleanly, might make room for something softer to live again between you. And that hope, it is the part of them they have been trying hardest not to show. But it is there, and it is growing stronger every time your name crosses their mind. There is a feeling here, like someone has been carrying a glass heart through a crowded room, trying not to drop it, trying not to let anyone see their hands are shaking, and now realizing they cannot keep protecting themselves and protecting the silence at the same time. That is what this next movement feels like, because what I'm getting now is that the apology is no longer living only as a wish. It is becoming an urgency, a pressure. A need to come clean, not only because they feel guilty, but because their heart is exhausted from holding love and remorse in the same place without giving either one a voice. The first card stepping forward is the Eight of Swords in reverse. And wow, this tells me they are trying to free themselves from the prison of their own thinking. For too long, this person has been circling the same questions. What if it is too late? What if you are done? What if the apology opens old pain? What if the truth comes out awkwardly? What if they are not forgiven? But Spirit is showing me that the fear has started losing its grip. Not because the risk disappeared, but because the silence is becoming more unbearable than the possibility of being vulnerable. I keep hearing something very clearly. I cannot keep living inside this unfinished feeling. That line lands hard because it tells me this is no longer tolerable for them, not emotionally, not mentally, not spiritually. The energy around you feels like temperance, and I love that so much because it tells me your presence still represents healing in their mind. Not only romance healing, the possibility that truth, once spoken with enough tenderness, could soften what became strained. I feel like they are not only longing for your love, they are longing for the return of emotional harmony, the return of honesty, the return of that feeling where the bond does not have to fight through misunderstanding just to breathe. Then I'm seeing the Page of Swords, and this says they are still checking the energy, still feeling for openings, still wondering how you are, what you feel, whether your heart has completely closed or whether there is still some small space where truth could land. This person may act like they are holding back with ease, but inwardly there is constant awareness, constant curiosity, constant emotional listening. They are not detached. They are trying to find courage. Another message keeps rising strongly. They want to explain the silence too that matters. Because this apology is not only about one moment, it is about the distance that followed, the confusion that grew, the things they left you to interpret by yourself. They know they let silence do too much damage. Then the Four of Cups in reverse appears, and wow, this tells me they are waking up to the chance that still may exist. Something in them is beginning to believe that if they do not speak, they may regret it far more than if they try. That is a very important turning point, because once hope enters the apology, movement follows. I feel this person is slowly shifting from emotional paralysis into willingness. And then the Two of Cups appears, which is beautiful because it confirms again that underneath everything, the connection is still alive in them. They still feel the bond. They still feel the pull. They still feel that your heart matters in a singular way. This is not someone apologizing because they want generic closure. This is someone apologizing because love remained, and love is making unfinished things impossible to ignore. So the message in this next movement is this. They are not okay because they can no longer comfortably live with the gap between what they feel and what they allowed you to see. They want to apologize because the silence became its own wound. They want to clarify because they know you deserve the truth, not pieces of it. And they are still in love with you, which is why their whole inner world keeps pushing them toward honesty now. And Spirit keeps whispering one last thing here. This person is not searching for the perfect script anymore. They are searching for the brave moment. The moment where they stop editing the heart stop over explaining fear. Stop letting shame sit in the driver's seat. And when that moment comes, I feel the apology will be softer than expected, truer than expected, and far more emotional than they planned. Because once a heart has held regret and love together for long enough, the truth does not come out polished. It comes out real. And real is exactly what wants to reach you now. When your name passes through them, it does not arrive alone. It brings memory, tenderness, ache, and that trembling hope that maybe truth can still touch your heart before the distance hardens into something permanent. That is why they cannot stay still much longer. There is something about this final wave that feels like a heart kneeling in the dark. No longer bargaining with pride, no longer rehearsing excuses, no longer pretending that silence can keep protecting what love itself is trying to reveal. That is the energy here. Because what I'm getting now, more than anything, is that this person has reached the point where the apology is no longer a thought they visit once in a while. It has become a calling, a pull, a necessity, a truth that keeps rising every time they try to push it back down. The first card stepping forward is judgment. And wow, this is the full awakening. The moment a person can no longer comfortably live beneath what they know in their own heart. This person knows now that what happened mattered. They know the pain mattered. They know your heart mattered. And they know their own feelings never left the way they may have hoped silence would make them leave. That is why they are not okay. They are living with a truth that keeps asking to be spoken aloud. I keep hearing something very clearly. I have to make this right, or at least tell the truth. That line lands deeply because it tells me the apology is not coming from pressure alone. It is coming from conscience, from love, from the need to stop letting misunderstanding carry the whole story. The energy around you feels like the star, and I love that so much because it tells me you are still the emotional north in their heart, still the person they associate with healing, softness, and the possibility of peace. So when they imagine speaking, they are not only imagining your reaction, they are imagining relief. The relief of no longer hiding the truth from the one person who still matters this much. The relief of finally letting your heart hear what theirs has been carrying in private. Then I'm seeing the Ace of Cups. And wow, this says everything because it tells me the love is not gone, not faded, not reduced into a memory they can politely smile at and move past. No, the feeling is still alive, still tender, still moving underneath everything. And that is exactly why the apology weighs so heavily. If they did not care, they would not be suffering this much. If they were truly over it, they would not be replaying the moments, missing your energy, and feeling the need to explain what was hidden behind their behavior. Love is the reason this hurts. Love is the reason truth keeps pressing upward. Another message keeps rising strongly. I don't want you to remember me through the pain alone. That one is so important because I feel this person is terrified that the version of them living in your heart now is the one who hurt you, confused you, or stayed too silent. They want to correct that, not by erasing what happened, but by finally giving you the missing pieces, the fear, the regret. The real feeling, they want you to know that what looked cold was not loveless, what looked distant was not emptiness. What looked like indifference was often their own inability to handle how deep this had become. Then the Six of Cups appears, and that makes this final part almost unbearably tender, because this says they still hold the sweetness of you, the moments, the energy, the familiar ache of what was beautiful between you. They are not only sorry because things went wrong, they are sorry because something precious was involved, something they still revisit in memory with a heart that has not gone numb at all. And then the final card stepping forward is the Lover's beautiful, painful, true. Because this confirms what Spirit has been saying from the first moment of this reading, they are still in love with you. So the deepest message in this final movement is this: they are not okay because the truth is alive in them now, and it refuses to let them rest inside the old silence. They want to apologize because remorse is real. They want to clarify because you deserve the full story, not just the wound, and they are still in love with you, which is why